How do you get people to help you? How do you get people to like you? And what to do to get exactly what you want? Here are some cool psychological tricks that you should take note of. This is Infinity, and in this episode, I'll tell you about psychological tricks that work on everyone. Let's go. Silence. Awkward silence is called awkward for a reason. People are afraid of long pauses during conversations, especially if the conversation is with someone they don't know very well. We've all been in such unpleasant situations, but it's possible to benefit from this situation. It especially works in business relationships. Imagine that you need to get more information about someone, or you want to close a lucrative deal. This is where silence will help. Pauses in communication will cause discomfort, and your interlocutor will unwittingly seek to fill them. Most likely, they'll provide the information you need or say something that will play in your favor. We often need help, but what's the best way to ask for it? The story of the famous politician Benjamin Franklin may provide the answer. One day, he decided to win the favor of a man who didn't like him but who could influence his political career. The man had a very large library, so Franklin wrote a polite letter asking for a favor to lend him a rare book for a few days. The book was sent immediately. Soon the politician returned it with a thank you note. At their next meeting, the man was the first to approach Franklin, and later they even became friends. As the politician later wrote in his biography, someone who once did you good is more willing to help you again than someone whom you helped yourself. That's the catch. If you want help from a particular person, start by asking them for a small favor, like handing something over, printing out a document, or carrying a light thing. After that, the chance that the person will comply with a more serious request will greatly increase. You can go the other way, a little sneaky one. You can take advantage of a person's fatigue to help you. Fatigue makes people vulnerable, which make them more likely to agree to do favors. For example, if you see that your friend isn't getting enough sleep and their attention is distracted, you can take the opportunity to ask them to help you with something. Most likely, they'll simply not be able to argue with you, so they'll agree, especially if you ask them several times in a row. This happens because a person is exhausted not only physically but also mentally. When the brain's tired, it becomes difficult to come up with arguments for refusal, so they choose the easiest way to solve the problem, to agree to the request. The method's effective, but you shouldn't use it too often. After all, it's not very nice and humanly. First and last. First and last is a very effective psychological trick. The human brain is designed to remember the first and last impressions best, or basically anything first and last. For example, if you watch a movie with an interesting intro, a boring middle, and an exciting final, you're likely to like the movie and not even pay attention to the boring part. Same thing works with people. Be first or last when you want to be remembered well. If you have a job interview or an important exam, try to be among the first or last candidates or students. And if you want to make a new acquaintance, be sure to leave a good first and last impression of yourself. Speaking of acquaintances, if you want a new person to like you, you can try a psychological trick called mirroring. The gist is simple. Be a mirror image of the other person's behavior. Repeat some of their words and phrases. Repeat their body movements. Try to speak at the same pace of speech. Take similar postures and so on. Researchers have found that this method is very effective. They found that those who were copied were very supportive of the person who copied them. Having a person who mirrors your behavior confirms your importance. People feel more self-important, and thus they're happier and in a better mood toward other people. To cement your success and make the person like you even more, address them by their first name. People are selfish creatures. No matter what anyone says, we like to be noticed. Calling a person by their name is a very good way to get their attention, especially if they're distracted by their phone during a conversation. It also emphasizes your interest in the person and the importance of being in conversation with him or her. For example, when sharing your impression of a movie, address the person by name and only then ask them what they think of the movie. Thus, you show that the opinion of the interlocutor is important to you. In turn, the person will be happy to share their thoughts with you. Calling a person by their name will help you to win their trust.
Hello there.
General Kenobi.
Nod. Another effective way of good manipulation is to nod. Nod during a conversation if you want someone to agree with you. The trick can be used if you need someone to agree with what you're saying or if you want to sway someone to your side. Psychologists have found that when people nod when telling you something, their listeners unwittingly start to agree with them. You may notice this during someone's arguments when one of the opponents starts arguments in their defense. Most likely, the other person will soon give up and admit they're wrong in the conflict or hurry to end it. If you want to create a positive and benevolent aura around yourself, then make a habit of complimenting someone or just saying nice words to them. It's worth doing even if you're in a bad mood, and even if the day doesn't promise a pleasant meeting. At first, it'll be difficult, but then you'll begin to enjoy and even stop making special efforts. In turn, you'll get sympathy from others. They'll begin to perceive you differently. In their eyes, you'll become a more significant person with whom it will be pleasant to deal with. By the way, while you're training, you can compliment not only your buddies and colleagues, but also casual acquaintances, salespeople, and taxi drivers. And remember that pleasant words said without reason, addressed to family and friends, will raise the mood, not only for them, but also for you. Let's go back to talking about help. Asking the person to do something insignificant for you and then switching to more serious requests is certainly an effective method. But what if help is needed right now? If so, you can use conversation as a psychological trick. Imagine your friend gets stuck on the phone, completely oblivious to the fact that you're holding a heavy stack of books that you need to take to another room. So that your friend gets off the phone and helps try to begin a simple conversation. During the dialogue, hand him or her the books or part of them. Your friend will help you with a high probability. Psychologists have found that when a person is involved in a conversation, they unwillingly pick up everything that's handed to them, so this can be used. By the way, something similar will work if you walk up to a person who's talking to someone on the phone and slip an object into their hands. Whatever you put in their hand, they're likely to take it. Aim higher. If you want to get something from a person or sell them a product, then use the psychological trick called the door-in-the-face technique. In other words, aim higher. Always ask for more than you initially need and then lower the bar. It works like this. First, you approach the person with an overly exaggerated request, which they're likely to refuse. After that, you come back with a request which is ranked lower. That's what the person thinks, but in fact, the ranked lower is what you originally needed. This trick may seem a little illogical, but the idea is that the person will feel uncomfortable after they turn you down. However, they'll explain it to themselves by the unreasonableness of the request. So the next time you approach them with your real need, they'll feel obligated to help you. New. When you become a member of a new social group, it's normal to wonder about the impression you make. But how do you know what people who see you for the first time really think of you? It's simple. It's worth paying attention to body language of those around you. If they're interested in you, then their heads and even their feet will be directed in your direction. If the person is looking at you but stands with their feet slightly turned around, or their feet are not directed at you, then most likely they're uncomfortable. And with their body, they let you know that your presence is undesirable. This, by the way, works both in ordinary communication and in romantic situations. That's all, guys. What other psychological tricks do you know? Share them in the comments. Thanks for watching, and see you later.